Constanze, you represent American companies here in Brussels. What are your members expecting from this negotiation?
The US Chamber has been a strong supporter of the negotiations. The investment between the US and the EU is very, very high. Many US companies have invested substantially here in the EU. So we are very positive about the outcome and we think it can be done quickly.
This is a very complex negotiation that there may be several stages, and the first stage would be the autumn of next year when a first result, tangible result, would need to be achieved, and then maybe the negotiation would continue afterwards. What is it you think can be achieved by the autumn of 2014?
Well, we do certainly believe that the agreement can be signed by next autumn. I mean, we know what the problems are. We won't have any unexpected problems coming up. We know what the solutions are. We know what we have to do. Now we have to implement it. It's a very ambitious timetable, but I think it can be achieved. What can be achieved will be a basic agreement which lays out the basic principles, and particularly in the regulatory cooperation, a mechanism how to allow the sectors to go on from there and how to allow sector-specific negotiations which will follow then the agreement. The agreement finally should be a living agreement which will continue for the next 10, 20 years.
On the regulatory side, do you see the agreement by the autumn of next year only as a framework agreement, or you see already some progress in terms of liberalization, actual liberalization, in terms of really being able to implement an increase in trade flows between the two sides of the Atlantic?
On the regulatory side, we hope very much. I mean, to have the regulatory framework set out in the agreement which we are going to sign. The ratification process, of course, will take much longer then. But we do hope as well to have some achievements in one of the priority sectors or in several of the priority sectors. I think that's very important. Also, we have a lot of political momentum in the moment, and I think it would be very, very important to keep this political momentum and to see really advances in liberalization.
Now, you mentioned priority sector or sectors. One often mentions the automobile as one of those priority sectors. Is that indeed what your feeling is?
What one hears a lot, that the automotive is a priority sector. Now, having said that, since I've been working for a long time in the automotive sector, I don't think it's that easy as a lot of regulators or politicians make it up. I think we've tried this for a long time. There are quite strong regulators in the automotive field. And so far we have not succeeded in making them work together. But indeed, we all agree, and there is a lot of public support for the fact that a car which is driven around in the US is safe and can surely be also driven around in Europe and vice versa.
So, okay, automotive sector would be desirable, maybe not the first one. As you said, you have lots of experience in looking at those issues. If the automotive sector is perhaps not quite easy as term of achievement for next year, do you see another sector as early implementer of this framework agreement?
I mean, I think none of the sectors is easy. Otherwise, we would have done it already. I think the low-hanging fruits have been harvested. I mean, we are coming to the more difficult issues. But the automotive sector, I'm sure we can make advances. I mean, always keeping in mind that we have to motivate the regulators, that the regulators have to be encouraged to work together, that they have to see it as a benefit for themselves. I think this is very important, not to increase the work, but eventually actually to lower their workload and make their work more efficient. Other sectors, I mean, there are several sectors. I mean, you have medical devices, you have the chemical sector, you have the cosmetic sectors, where all those sectors have actually identified in their common position papers issues which could be addressed. And I think it's very important to first tackle the issues which are probably easier, no, not easy, but which are easier, and just move ahead with them and maybe leave out the really problematic areas for right now to be tackled later on in the process.
In the end, the achieving an agreement really boils down to political will on the US side and political will on the European side. Do you see that there is such a political will indeed?
I think there's definitely, in the moment, a big political momentum, and you're completely right. I think this is very important to have the political will. We have it in the moment. I mean, Obama has mentioned the issue in the State of the Union address. Everybody who has ever lived in the US and was active in the political circles know how difficult it is to get anything into the State of the Union address. This is a very positive sign for the agreement. I also think that the appointment of Mike Froman is a very positive sign of the strong political will we find on this agreement in the US. The business community is almost entirely for the agreement. Usual opponents of free trade agreements like trade unions are not opposed in the US to the agreement, because they don't expect any social dumping through the agreement, giving the strong labor rights in Europe. What we absolutely need now, and what we have to be careful about, is to take the public with us. I think this is really important. I mean, that public opinion is positive to the agreement, and of course, I mean, politicians are dependent on public opinion. So this also can turn against if we make the mistake to not sufficiently inform the public and to not be sufficiently transparent.
Thank you very much.